Hey Tim, look at this.
Needs work.
Ugh. Hey Tim, how about this?
Still needs work.
Darn it. How about this?
Nice, high five.
Good evening, everybody. How's it going?
My name's Tim.
My name's Michael.
And you're watching the TMI show.
That's the Tim and Michael Information Show, and I feel like you're whispering because we're in a top-secret location.
Yes, I am.
Located on the Fullerton College campus, but that's okay. These are actually soundproof to a point.
That's Fullerton in China, by the way.
Hi there, guys. How's it going? It's been a while since we've been able to do a post. We're actually trying a little experiment today. I guess you could call this the TMI podcast. Because we're not broadcasting any video, we're just going to be transmitting. And I wanted to try this out with you because I said, you know, we usually get to throw up a lot of visuals and stuff up on screen. What if we just restricted ourselves to actually talking about something without relying on any visuals?
Oh, fun.
And I know that for a while you and I have been wanting to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy, and
definitely.
you were talking to me about, you know, the soundtrack and how, were you saying it came out before the movie, right?
Well, it didn't necessarily come out before the movie. The point I was trying to make to Michael was that the soundtrack was really tied into the identity of the movie from the very beginning. You know, you saw that first trailer that came out back in February, and you had your lineup of characters that introduced you to who the Guardians of the Galaxy were, and then the very next thing you heard as the title came up was "Hooked on a Feeling," and it was fantastic. And that's what, yeah, and it was something that let you know this film's going to be a little bit different. And of course, the more we saw the film and the more we got to know it, the more we realized this is going to have a nice little kind of 70s retro
It's going to have its own
vibe to it. Yeah,
march to the beat of its own drum.
Precisely.
So,
Precisely.
Without relying on any visuals or anything, we just wanted to kind of go on our nice little line of talking about the film.
Sounds good.
So when I saw it, by the way, I'm going to throw a little shout out to the wonderful World of Disney for doing the. They had a preview.
They did, yes.
Preview at the park. And first, I went to actually go see the... Kathleen and I went to go see the Maleficent preview that they ever had at the Bugs Land Theater.
And by the way, was that not like the best venue
it was
for that
pretty
preview?
phenomenal. And also, I mean, they filled the place with fog, and I mean, 4D. 4D is kind of amazing. You know, I mean, to put your senses into the film other than just the visuals, and I was kind of blown away. So when the Guardians one came around, we said, well, I don't know what they're going to do in the Captain EO theater, but I was still pleasantly surprised and happy with what they did with it. So much that I almost wish you could have a whole film that way. But at the same time, when I finally went to go see the film, it didn't mind that it wasn't in that. I just remember I wanted to start by saying... we left with our group, and one guy said, I'm so glad that our comic book films are finally getting a nice recognized due, and they're not just tongue-in-cheeking it, and they're actually being treated as a full story in a movie.
True.
So
very true.
that was kind of, he summed up my first initial impression. What about you after seeing the film? What was your sort of take on it, and how did you feel? Did you like it? Yeah.
I absolutely loved it. I remember hearing a lot of doubts about the film. Some people were really excited for it, and some people said, "Oh, I don't know. I mean, a talking raccoon, come on!" And you know, people were all over the board about it, and I had this feeling that we were all going to be very, very surprised by it, and it was just going to be an absolutely fantastic, explosive, charming movie, and it was. And really, that's the thing about the movie is that it. You know, there's so many things it does right. There's so many phenomenal things about it. It's funny, it's exciting, it's touching, the characters are wonderful, and it takes you to some very, very great places. This is actually probably the first thing I took away from the film was just how colorful and diverse it is. You know, you have the Collector's Collection and Xandar and all, you know, Ronan's ship, you know, the bad guy's ship, all these places that have their own unique flavor and are very distinct from each other, and yet at the same time gel and feel like they're part of the same universe. So you get this wonderful road trip all over the galaxy as part of this film.
Do you have any favorite character? Do you have any favorite characters from the film, or you're not one of these favorite picking type of people?
You know, normally I'm not. People ask me my favorite movie, and I'm like, I got like 10 favorite movies.
Yeah, I've got 15 favorite movies.
You know? But every once in a while, there is just you know, something on the list that stands out, and for me, it's by far Rocket. Rocket is hilarious. He always answers in the way you would not expect him to. He's kind of got this ego to him, this huge personality for by far the tiniest guy on the team that just makes him really fun to watch.
I'm glad you said Rocket, and not that I'm saying not Groot, but also with the Disney Marvel figures coming out for the Infinity game coming out soon. I mean, that's the other thing I wanted to quickly talk about, but I'll get to that in a second.
Sure.
Groot is easily one of the fan favorites that I've seen a bunch of people just like, oh, Groot, especially girls. Girls love Groot.
I think it's that dancing Groot.
Is it the dancing Groot that does it at the end? Spoiler alert.
Sorry, I should have said something.
Yeah, we should have. You know what? Yeah, but that's a whole other episode.
By the way, if you're going to watch the rest of this, you're going to be trading on spoilers. So
yeah, I mean, we're throwing that to the wind. Sorry about that. Anyways, but no, it is like, we had a girl come into work the other day, and she was like, oh my God, Groot! Like she just wants a Groot figure, and she's not even going to buy the game. And I'm feeling really bad for forgetting that. But again, I'm more of a DC person than Marvel, so I don't retain all the names. But who was the character that Bautista played?
Oh, Drax.
Drax. Okay. Now, first, I have to say, for anybody that doesn't really, I had a small, not really an argument, and wasn't really a debate because I didn't want to get into it with them. But I had a friend, right? I had a friend who said that Tyler Mane was not a good choice for Sabretooth for the Origins film, Wolverine Origins.
Okay.
Even though I love Tyler Mane. Tyler Mane is one of my favorite people in the world. Not only is he an actor and producer, but he also, he used to be a wrestler for back in the day. And I think that guy has more talent in his eye than some people have in their entire body. You watch Halloween 2, there's a shot where they just have of his eye, and that's all it is. And it's the rest of him's lit in darkness. And you want to talk about acting with an eye. You're terrified of this eye. The guy, he really does. Wrestlers... I really feel like people kind of that was my chair squeaking, sorry. I really feel like people overlook wrestlers and undermine how talented they are and how much talent they possess as performers, because it's much more than being physical. Yeah, most of these guys are like 6 foot plus, 500 pounds or something of pure muscle. But you forget that it is performance with the characters that come with it, and having to perform inside huge venues. And sometimes when you get some of them under a camera lens and just let them go and have a fun day. I remember watching him on screen, and he was absolutely my favorite. Watching Drax and little nuances of stuff he was doing, I said, I love this guy. I absolutely do. And he's such a strange character, because I think he's supposed to be the anti, and he's sort of hell-bent on the revenge, but I just couldn't help but love Drax. I don't know if I would ever buy a Bautista action figure, but I will definitely buy a Drax action figure. And that's the other thing, because I didn't really get to, he played a heel in wrestling, so it's face and heel. So, I mean, he was usually Mr. and that's kind of all he was, but seeing him play a multifaceted, dimensional character, I was just...
Which he did very well, by the way.
I know.
I did not expect that at the end.
I was so happy. I was like, wow, look at this guy. And the other thing that I wanted to go back to, which I said I was going to come to it later, is, and I wanted to talk to you about this because I haven't chatted with anyone about it, and box office, because you said this is number one movie accompanied by the number one album.
That's right, yeah.
Is that actually, is the movie number one still?
Yeah, I don't know if it's number one now, but I heard it is the highest grossing film of the summer, which does not surprise me at all. And then the album, of course, very quickly became the number one album for a while, and it topped the charts, so yeah.
Now, here's my thing. I'm glad that comic book films are getting a due. I'm finally glad that even though, and it's not a matter of DC versus Marvel, I'm glad that a comic book film or franchise is doing as well as it's doing. I really, really am. But now I almost feel a little bad, because I feel like if a Marvel movie comes out, it's always going to be expected to do well, and for pardon my French, to hell with everything else. I mean, I heard a bunch of things that came out this summer did not do well. Expendables 3, which my buddy Brad is totally into, loves it, and then he says that didn't gross a ton. as they were expecting, and Sin City, which I saw, and which it was so phenomenal.
Frank Miller.
Oh, Frank, yeah, and it really is Frank, because Robert Rodriguez has Frank with him on set. He makes sure
good.
He actually stepped down from the first movie, and he stepped down from the Directors Guild to give Frank Miller the credit, because Directors Guild wasn't going to give Frank Miller the credit, and he said it is Frank Miller, Sin City. And the fact that he took a couple stories for this new film that haven't been published and actually put them on screen, I felt like I had seen them somewhere. I felt like I actually had that book, and even though he never published them. So, again, but phenomenal. But it came out around the same time that Guardians did.
Oh, and there you go.
Yeah, and, I call it the Avengers effect. Because I remember Dark Shadows, another movie which I thoroughly enjoy. And my mom actually loves Dark Shadows. I mean, she used to watch the TV show, and she loves Johnny Depp and Tim Burton. And so, even though she can't get into some of the darker, graphic-y stuff that Tim does, she'll watch Dark Shadows from here until the cows come home. And it opened the week after the Avengers opened, so nobody cared. Is what I feel. And so I don't know how to feel that now Marvel is doing so well that we're grossing billion-dollar movies, and every time a movie comes out, I'm almost like, what else are we supposed... I don't know. Do you think it's hurting other studios? What are we supposed to do?
I don't know. And it is funny that you call this the Avengers effect, because I think part of the reason that superhero films are continuing to be so popular, and then especially Marvel is doing so well, is because of films like The Avengers, where you have this, like, what I call lateral filmmaking, where you make a series of unrelated films, or independent films, I should say, that are distinct from each other, that are not sequels or prequels to each other, and then tie them into a single film, which Avengers did. And that was the first time anybody had done that. And then, of course, now DC is trying to do it with Batman and Superman and create a Justice League movie. So what's happened is you don't just have like a series of really popular films. And superhero films, sure, are as popular as they ever have been. But because of what Marvel has done with the Avengers and is continuing to do, and now because of what DC's doing, you've sort of created a subculture that is growing bigger than the individual movies. And it's not just really popular movies anymore. It's something that people are talking about. Oh, what's going to happen next from DC? How are they going to compete against Marvel doing this with their cinematic universe and generating more and more movies and expanding the Avengers?
And I'm so glad they're not doing the Marvel flair that Marvel is doing. Marvel has its own sort of taste, and DC is being very, very much of, we're not going to produce a movie every year under something different. I mean, they're
I don't think they can yet.
Well, no, but at the same
steam.
time, they're taking. I mean, I hear Arrow was doing exceptional,
Good.
and I'm very, very sad that I haven't watched it. But then they also just released the new Gotham series, and we're getting a Flash. We haven't had a Flash since the 90s.
Yeah, I remember that show.
And me too.
Yeah.
My dad and I would watch it all the time, and my little brother, if he was old enough to remember. But so I'm glad that they said, well, they're sort of doing several TV route, while Marvel has one. They're doing the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And so they said, okay, we can tap our finger into TV, but also DC. I mean, when did Man of Steel come out? A couple years ago already.
Yeah, last summer. So it's been a year now.
So, gosh, was it last summer?
Yeah.
Wow. And yet it feels like it was eons ago. Maybe because so many things have come out since. I've seen Captain America. I've seen Iron Man 3. I've seen,
X-Men.
That's right. Oh, I still haven't seen Days of Future Past. Anyways, so we're going to have the next one, what is it, 2016?
The next
Batman, Superman.
I think it's 2016, which is probably good for DC because Avengers 2 is next year. So
yeah, we
really don't want those two to butt heads.
We can percolate, and I'm fine with doing that. I'm like, you know what? Let's go ahead and let it simmer, and let's go ahead and do it at its own pace. I was expecting to be like in my 40s with like. Not 5 kids, but I mean, with have my kids that they were going to be old enough that they wouldn't be little, that they'd be older, that I could take to see a Justice League film. And now it seems like I'm actually going to get it sooner than that. So I'm happy for that.
Man, get on with having kids, dude.
So I can take. I have a nephew who's 10 right now.
Oh, perfect.
Interestingly enough, he's going to be the same age roughly that my younger brother was when Episode 1 came out. He'll be the same age when Episode 7 comes out.
Wow.
Yeah, about a year difference, but pretty darn close. So, and I think I've talked about him before. I'm interested to see what his take on it is, because he's grown up with 6 movies, and I grew up with 3 being in existence, and then seeing another 3, and he's growing up with 6, and he's going to see another 3. So, but that's anywho. That's kind of where this Guardians talk has taken us. Guardians, Justice League, and Avengers. Oh my!
And beyond, I know.
So, thank you guys for listening to our first official podcast, as we're. Oh, and if I can, I don't know if this is even. Because I don't know all the behind-the-scenes stuff, but I want to give a round of applause to Jon Favreau, the director of Iron Man, and because if he didn't, you know what, and if he honestly did not do as good of a job as he did, I don't know if it would have worked. Because how many other films have we seen that had cliffhangers, Golden Compass, you know, or how many other films that they knew they wanted to make more and left it wide open? Some of them even had these little tags, and you were like, ooh, where's it going? And they never did, because, you know, producers probably say, no, we didn't make enough, we're closing it down.
Right.
And so I just remember, if he didn't do so well with Iron Man 1, we may not have all these films. You know, like, I hope that guy gets patted on the back every single time. Granted, there's a lot of other producers involved, et cetera, but Jon Favreau, you know, so... shows us that he's not just some comedian actor. Dude's brilliant. Anyways.
He's versatile.
He is. Thank you guys for listening to our show, and we will catch you next time.